the money issue is kind of, let's say, always a hot topic in tennis, because it's such a competitive sport. But I think the Grand Slams are just super important. If you can participate in these events, then I think you can do well, and you can maybe choose to travel with the coach from time to time. But besides that, it's not easy. Like, of course, this week, I share the room with my coach, which happens quite often and most of the time. I don't mind, to be honest, but for sure, for a little bit financial costs and cost efficiency, it's definitely better. But it is true, from the futures, you really have to do really well to be able to save a little bit at the end of the week, not traveling with the coach. Then sometimes in the challengers, if you do well, you could maybe afford coming with the coach, etc. But travel cost has risen a little bit in the last couple of years, especially after Corona. Flight tickets just got way more expensive, and on the Challenger Tour you have to travel every week. Playing qualies in Challengers, then I don't think you're making a lot, even though those players are 300 and 350 in the world, which are unbelievably good players. But that's definitely a hustle if you're playing those qualies. Once you're in the main draw, I think you can break even if you balance out the costs really well. I think for me also personally, it's a balance of how much money am I gonna invest in my career and maybe hopefully get out one day, and how much do I think I should just kind of try to save a little bit for my life in general, and to pay for my costs and to pay for the normal things in life, let's say. But I think if you start becoming a top 200 player, then I think there are some possibilities to travel more with the coach, to maybe have a few sponsor opportunities, even though it's still very difficult, I think, to really have sponsor deals. I think you need to be top 100 at least, especially these days, where I feel like a lot of companies are really doubting or don't really know how much tennis players can actually make them, or something like that. I think you really need to be top 100 and have that visibility to be able to have some sponsor deals. The top 100, I think it's a very important barrier. It's an important barrier, one, because it's very to become a top 100 player, it's probably an amazing achievement. It's a goal for every tennis player. On the other side, if you're top 100, you'll also play the main draw of the Grand Slams, which makes financially a huge difference. If you make the main draw of the Slam, then you will be able to overcome the next couple of months, and you'll be able to really be a tennis player and be very professional, or as professional as it should be. For the main draw, I think you're already around gross maybe 60K. Then if you go to the second round, you go to 90, third round to 120, and then it goes really fast. But I think the gap between someone playing the main draw of the Slams and someone who just didn't make it to the Slams, which I had this year a few times, is huge. And this also brings a lot of pressure, of course, because I know if I'm making the Slams, then you'll be a little bit more relaxed financially. But for example, this year I just fell out of Australia with a few spots. Then I made it to the French. Then also Wimbledon missed with a few spots. Now US Open a little bit further away, but still those are tournaments that you can actually put some aside, or that you can say, okay, now I'm going to invest in my career for the next couple of months. But if you don't have that backup, then I think it's pretty difficult to maintain a certain level of professionalism. Equipment, I have a few sponsors. So I'm sponsored by K-Swiss at the moment for clothes, Technifiber for my rackets. I'm using also the 6D products for shakes and powders. I have insoles from Podo Activa, and using the socks of Playwear, which are like anti-grip socks. So they try to help me in their way as much as they could, and I really appreciate it, of course. For the moment, it's only material. Of course, when you go higher, then you might get some bonuses, but then you only talk about top level results and, you know, breaking top 100 or breaking top 50 even, and making semis in ATPs and this kind of things. So no, in challengers it's really tough to have a sponsor. I also don't really have a financial sponsor, so I'm, you know, just supporting myself, let's say. So yeah, that's why I need to balance out a little bit the financial side of my tennis career right now. But it's also a learning process. It's also something that you need to take care of, that you need to work on, and see what you can improve, also on the financial side. And you know, it's a part of it. It would be easier, of course, if you have someone who just says, well, here is that kind of money, and, you know, take yourself a coach and a physio. That would be pretty helpful, but that's not how it goes, or not in my case. So yeah, you just have to do as well as you can and try to make the maximum out of your career.